You ever wonder what the rarest big reds are? Hey everybody, welcome back to This Old Trike. Today we have a treat for you. We are going to revisit the big red comparison video, but we're going to put a little bit of a different spin on it. We're going to talk about the rarest big reds and then follow that up with comparisons between the rare ones, the common ones, all of them, and then we will talk about how I came to own each of one of these. I'll touch on it a little bit because there are a number of them here. I don't even know how many I brought out. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. A baker's dozen. It's only 90 degrees out here in upstate New York, but we're going to try to do our best to tell you what I think I know about Honda's line of big reds. Okay, the year was 1982. Honda released the ATC 200E Big Red. A lot of people aren't super familiar with this model, this year of this model. The color scheme is black and red. Kind of a departure from what they ended up doing with the blue, two-tone blue of the 83, 84. But then they get back into the black and grays later on, as you will see. But 200E, I have to correct myself. The last time I did a big red comparison video, I said this was a 2-year only machine being made in 82 and 83. But since I have learned that there was an 84 version, not to be confused with this machine, which is a 200 ES, but I have learned that in 84, the stripes followed the same kind of line thickness as that, but they leaned backwards on an 84 200E. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's come back to 82. So in 82, chain drive, high-low range. Down here is your gear select, your range select rather. Now this is a pre-85 machine, so we know it is downshift. It is electric start, like all the 200Es and big reds are. Comes standard with racks, front and rear. Has a trunk, has a factory tow hitch. This thing is not factory. I've never taken it off. It would normally look like, well, that's rotten right off. It would normally look like that. But they probably had some rot and they were trying to dress it up a little bit. But these are hardtail in the rear, limited front suspension. A lot of these lock up. This actually works, so those are good. But just a nice workhorse, reliable. In 82, which this is what the dash pad looks like. That's complete. You might think, oh, it's missing the rubber. It's not. So there's no neutral indicator. There's no lights of any sort. 83 didn't have any lights, but it did have this pad with the Honda up here. Dressed it up a little bit because this does look unfinished, especially when you're used to the later models. Maybe in 82 when you got this and this was brand new, you didn't think anything of it, but compared to 83, 84 and on, it looks plain. The levers are unique to 82. These have little plugs that come out. This one's missing, but that's a threaded hole where you could put a mirror on here if you wanted to. I think these were crossover between some of the motorcycles Honda offered. Your switch is the same switch that you'll see in 83 and also 84, I believe. I'm doing a visual confirmation right now, and I think that's a safe statement. The bar ends are these metal heavy-duty bar ends where they get swapped out to the plastic ones that are common across many models, sport models, utility models. The tank for the 82, 83, 84, and 85 200 ES, if you happen to get one of those, are the same shape. They will interchange. Decals are different. Warnings are different. The fenders on an 82 200E are the same as an 83. But in 84, they get this notch out because your sub-transmission gets bigger because of the reverse aspect. See how that goes straight down, and this goes down and notches out. And what's interesting is on a 84 200M, you don't have that notch out. Or I'm sorry, that notch out is there, but the sub-transmission isn't. So they're using these fenders on the 84 200M, even though, you know, they're not carrying two very similar fenders. They switched to this fender in 84. And I'm going to overlay a picture. I don't know as I speak to you right now, but I bet the 84 200E also has that notch out. The 85 200 ES has the notch out. The 85 200M would have that notch out. They all share the same fenders. But let's coming back to 82. This has aftermarket tires on it, Scorpions on the rear. What is this? A Duro something or other on the front. You know, it looks like a woolly booger. This has a repop of a headlight guard. Guy was making these, selling them on eBay a while ago. I don't know if they're still there or not, but just dresses it up a little bit. These headlight cages are factory. Something interesting is, I believe the 82 and 83, these are not red injection molded like they are in 84. Because this one had a decal on it, and I was trying to get the residue off, and I was getting a little aggressive, and I was getting through the red. I believe an 84 would interchange on that and be an upgrade, but I basically ceased and desisted when it came to trying to get that residue off. But let's transition into 83. 83 is basically an identical machine with different decals. We've talked about the dash pad. The levers go to a slightly different style with this type of brake lock mechanism. You still have the chrome metal throttle. No neutral indicator on the bar pad. It has a sewn seam seat. This isn't aftermarket. That is factory. These have metal pans. This is a seamless seat cover on a plastic pan, but that seat will fit on this machine, and will fit on this machine, and will fit on 200Ms. 200Ms have a seamless seat cover with a plastic pan. There's a lot of part swapping potential between all of these machines. The rear racks are the same up to 84. But you know what I've learned? 85 has a difference in the rack. Outside of the reflectors, it's got this rear mount right here. And I'm going to have to drill these fenders, which are new old stock fenders, to receive a grommet so I can put a nut there. But you'll see 84 doesn't have it. 85 doesn't have it. Or I'm sorry, 83 and 82. That is a 85 200 ES only option. Pretty weird. There are some weird differences between the 84 and 85 that we'll get to, but right now we're still talking about 83. So tank decals are different. We talked about the bar ends. This one has one of those headlight guards that I put on it. It's got original rear tires, which are Dunlops on the rear, but it's got your run-of-the-mill knobby on the front. I don't even know what it is. It is a BKTS? No, a BKT Sports. Never heard of it. Honda line front basket. Again, downshift, high-low range, electric start with pull start backup. Yeah, we'll tell more of the story on that one in a minute. But 84 was a big upgrade. Doesn't look hardly different, right? Tank decals are slightly different, where this one's got that thicker gray stripe, silver stripe in front. That one had a thinner white stripe. When I got this machine, it came with an 83 tank on it. And I didn't know enough to know it had the wrong tank on it. But a buddy of mine pointed it out. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And I tracked down an original 84 tank and actually swapped a guy. He had the opposite. He had an 83 with an 84 tank on it. And we helped each other out. Got this one from my buddy Chad Bennett, but I'm going to save that story for later. Original tires, seamless seat cover like I talked about. Now we get some neutral and reverse light indicators on it. Words are written below. These are, light up when you are in neutral or when you go into reverse. This is downshift. Reverse is selected by lifting this up and putting it backwards. Of course, it's not going to snap in for me. Electric start, pull start backup, shaft drive. So you get your first glimpse of a differential in the back. So it's shaft drive, kind of right down the middle. Puts the power out to each tire. Posi. We talked about the fender change. The controls are all the same still. You got your chrome throttle. Levers are just like the 83. Racks will all interchange. 82, 83, 84. Gas tanks will interchange. Decals are different though, like I mentioned. And at the time I recorded my last Big Red video, I didn't know, or I was potentially in denial of the fact that they made an 85 200 ES. They didn't sell it in the US though. So this is they sold these in Canada. My Canadian friend Ben is the one who told me about these. They sold these in England, Europe, Australia, New Zealand. I've done a series on the restoration of this machine, so feel free to check those out to see what this looked like when I got it and how I got it. They are very similar to the 84, but I've noticed a few differences. Allow me to talk about them. So I'm assuming that this came with Dunlops on it, just like the 84. So that's what I put on it. The non-US models have reflectors that are just, there's like a thick nut stud back there that screws into the headlight, and your reflector screw into that. The 85 model gets these rubber protectors on the brake levers, both sides. That is a similar situation to models that cross over from 84 into 85 as well. So 200S's, you'll see that change. 200M's, you'll see that change. Same thing with the throttle. This is what you normally see on a 85 200X, 85 200S, and 86. But it goes away from that chrome steel looking one to this one, which I don't know if that, I think that's plastic top at least. So that's another difference. Another difference is this is 85, it is upshift. So 84 would be downshift, upshift. Same change from in 200Ms. 84 is downshift, 85 is upshift. Controls look the same. Still dual lights. I put a speedometer on this one. I've got to put a little end on this one. I've got them from my pal Tim Keister, sent me some. Maybe before the end of this video I'll run in and grab one and stick it on. Let me in. Thanks, Tim. Told you about the rack difference. These all come standard with tow hitches. This has a change on the side of the differential that I noticed. It has like a, you can just see it right there. Right there. It's like a raised portion with some threaded holes, like something was gonna mount there. And this one doesn't have it. It's just kind of smooth and contoured. I don't know what it is. I noticed it when I was painting it, but I couldn't tell what it was. I feel like there was another difference. You see the rear reflectors, so they have welded on tabs that allow for those to bolt on. That may be it. If I think of anything else, I'll come back, but check out the other video series I did on this, on the restoration, and you'll be glad you did. So this one and the 84 don't have the guard that goes on the cage. This has a separate ring that goes in, so you do away with the chrome ring. And these are actually advertised as TRX 200, but they fit 84, 85, 200 ES Big Reds. Okay, so this is the 200 series, the hardtail rear end series. 2 chain drive, 2 shaft drive. Well, actually a 3rd chain drive 84 should be in there, but we don't have that. That is the last model I lack to have one of each model Honda 3-wheeler ever made. So if you happen to have that, if you live over there somewhere in Europe, first of all, thank you for watching. But if you have one and you'd like to sell it to me, I would be very interested in talking to you. Please find me on Instagram or Facebook or any method you can. Smoke signal, you know, U.S. Postal Service. We got a lot of machines to talk about, so let's keep moving. So in 85 outside the U.S. you could get one of these. You could also get one of these outside the U.S., but this is the only model Big Red you could get in the U.S. in 1985. And this is a big upgrade, completely different platform than the 200 series. This has suspension in the rear. This is 250cc, probably not actually 250. I'll look on the motor and confirm what it actually is, but let's do that now. Is it 246? Where is it at? Where is it at? They had it in the back, in the front. Well, geez, now I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to edit. Must be on the other side. Yeah, 246, correct, right there. Okay, 246cc, but they branded a 250. Why not? Let's round up. This is a super clean, all original example of a 250 ES that you get in 85. It's got the Honda line box on the front. The box has been repainted. I think it's been powder coated by the guy I got it from. Oh, there's a toe strap in case you need it. Normally the hardware on this box would be silver, chrome, but that got powdered right over. Original tires. So this is shaft drive. There's no high-low anymore, but it does have reverse as operated by pressing this button. I got the brake on, but you press the button, pull it in, downshift, into reverse, but your normal shifting would be upshift. The starter motor is now rearward on the motor as opposed to the front location on the 200cc models. These suffered from a cold start issue. They were hard to start in the cold, so they made a change in 86. Where's the 86? Here's my 86. That's also an 86. They made an improvement with the jets to allow for better starting in cold temperatures. The rear swing arm on an 85 flares wide. You can see this one flares out. What I mean is this one flares out. That's your shaft with your diff. You'll see on 86 it's more square, like that leg. Oops, that leg is square. So that's a change from 85 to 86. Decals, obviously. This has a black seat, no Honda written on the back. These don't have Honda on the back. I guess they weren't really thinking that way. Other machines did have Honda printed on the back. Sport machines. So, neutral reverse lights are still embossed beneath. Your headlight and run switch change in 85, at least on the 250 ES model. 200 ES stayed the same as the 200 series. Your throttle is different on the 250 than the rest. The earlier models, I mean. But this is going to change again in 86, so stay tuned. But yeah, let's move on. Maybe I'll think of some more things. This is my big Bubba. I'll tell the story on this in a bit, but this is what would be my mud machine. Not that I drive much of anything in the mud, but if I wanna, I can do it on this. This one's been around for a long time, not necessarily in my garage, but in the family. So a couple things I'll tell you about it. The gas tank is leaking, so I've got to line it. All that schmutz on the side cover is from gas leaking out the tank. I've put these rims and tires on it. It's a 14-inch rim on the front, a 12-inch rim on the rear, with a Mudlight 2 on the front and Maxxis Zillas on the rear. I put a very small lift in the rear, which is consisting of this bracket, which lifts the shock like an inch and a half maybe. I put a rear disc brake setup on it from a Canadian guy whose name I can't think of right now. But Brad Rye made that lift, or sells those on eBay and also through Power Sports Surplus LLC. My buddy Vinny. And Vinny also sells Brad Rye's brake kits. I would recommend those. I had issues when I put that on. That kit comes with new forks, because, not forks, new pegs, because this peg gets made with a bracket to hold a master cylinder that pumps fluid to the caliper. What else? What else on Big Bubba? Custom decals made by Scott Sansucci at DDR Slat. He did these for me. Tank decals are factory. The old bars were bent. I had these bars. I don't know what they're off of. I hate these grips. They move on me. This one moves, I think. I've got it wired there, but these are OEM bars off something, so I think I'm going to swap these out with factory waffle grips, because that bothers me. I've got no rear brake lever on this. I don't care about that, but I don't have a parking brake. It's like it's tricky. And I put a LED headlight in this a long time ago. You'll see ATC boys, I know they're changing the name of their channel, so stay tuned for whatever that ends up being. But he just talked about a bracket that he put in with his setup, he put in a different type of LED light just now. I think he had this one. Mine is friction fit, so it's just pushed in there and it's holding, and it's been holding for probably 4 years. He mounted a bracket which allowed him an actual mechanical attachment method. Yeah, this has 27-inch rear tires on the rear, and it just rubs my tires, or my fenders. These fenders are nothing special. These were on a machine that I sold. The guy told me he was going to turn that machine into a big blue, so he sold me the fenders back. So I put them on this because this thing had no fenders on it when I got it. Moving on, 1986. Okay, so there's a few cosmetic changes in 86. I'll point them out. You might notice the seat is now gray, a dark gray seat, and I like that. I like the look of an 86 better than an 85. The decals are different, so we've got some chop going on there. It's not just the tank, it's also the side panels. You see the 3 stripes on each of these. That's the method there. This also has a box. This is an unrestored box, so you see it's got the warning here. The hardware should be chrome. That one's got no warning on it. This has, this is an OEM Honda line guard, and so is that one. So these, if you find them, expect to pay 200 or 250 bucks. It's crazy. The reproductions, I think I paid $100 a piece for. But the motor is the same, the tires are the same, racks are the same. This now becomes gray, and look at this. Reverse and neutral are printed on the light, and actually, neutral is down low. Neutral is down low. Neutral is up high. Neutral is up high. Neutral is up high. They switched the placement of the lights. Unreal. Can you believe it? These keychains were made by a buddy of mine, Justin, and I think he sells them on eBay. You can find them on eBay. He sells Fat Cat. He sells 250Rs. He sells a bunch of them. The switches change. So this is more the color scheme that they went to with 250Rs, with 350Xs. Everything got that. 200X got an upgraded switch. The throttle's the same. Pretty sure everything's the same. You know what got pointed out to me? I believe maybe it's an 87. The gas caps get a little bigger, and that was pointed out by my buddy Slick over at the ATC boys. So look how big that is. That's smaller. This one looks bigger. This one looks smaller. This one looks bigger. So makes me wonder what's what. Like, I think in his video, I think he said 87's got bigger. So like, is that a replacement? You bought it new old stock at some point. Could be. Hard telling, not knowing. But Honda is on the back of the seat. I like that. The swing arm, this is an improved design, and they sealed up the rear brake drum better, so it would keep mud and liquid out. Tires are the same. They put an extra shield on the head pipe, up here. And that stays for 87. That one is missing the guard backwards, which is usually the opposite when you're missing a guard. And in 86, of course, they've got the locking steering stem with the helmet holder incorporated. Where's the helmet holder on the 85? Is there one? It doesn't appear to be one. Okay. This is a super clean 86 too. I like it. This big blue is also an 86. It has a leaking petcock. The tank and triple tree was painted by my buddy Bill Cogswell, father to Ryan Cogswell of Mineshaft Minis. Super talented body guy. He also painted the tank on my 85 200 ES. So I've ridden this very little. As you can tell, you know, this is pretty much as it was in the last Big Red video I did. I haven't done anything to it. It has a speedo on it. It's got these stump guards, which I believe are CMP. I don't like how the stump guards hit the fenders. I don't know if they're back too far or if something is off. I have a powder coated rack that I will someday put on this. Well, let me show you what my plan is for this. And it's a little bit of a, no, I'm gonna wait. There's a plan for this, and it involves two other machines. So I'll show you that in a minute. So I never even got the tail lights in it. These decals are also DDR Slap, Scott Sansucci. Great name in the decal reproduction business. You'll see, you know, this is a little bit more faded of a light switch. You know, I'm missing the Honda emblem there. All things I want to address, but just need to get there. This seat has been recovered. I recovered that seat. You'll see how squared off the corners are on a factory seat. That Honda sits higher, it sits lower on this guy. And your corners, when you pull that down tight, you know, it looks good otherwise, but it's just not, it's not right. Anyway, there's warnings that should be on the tank that I never put there. When I was in my early days, I didn't realize that they made anything beyond 86. I thought 86 was the last year. But then I learned that they made three-wheelers into 1987. And these are my three 1987 Big Reds. This one I've had for a while. I put a headlight guard on it. I put a box on it. This is not the Honda box that you're used to seeing. This is this came off a scooter, I think, a European scooter. Got that from my pal Vinny Staffa. This one, they did some upgrades in '87. They improved the starter gears. If you look, that's got more of a teardrop sort of shape, and they had to notch out the cover to give it room. You'll see in 86 and 85, they're more oval shaped. There's no notch in the cover. Well, it's a Meyer cover, but let me come back to the blue one. Everyone says, I didn't know they made a big blue in when they made Big Reds. They didn't. This is custom. These are Meyer fenders. Jesse Meyer, Meyer USA. Meyer, not Mayer, Meyer. I'll still mispronounce Atsu. I don't care. It just seems better. I like that better. But these are Meyer fenders. You can get them, you might be able to buy them blue standard now. If you do a custom color, Meyer will do that, but you got to buy 5 sets all at once. So you got to kind of orchestrate doing a bulk buy with your buddies. But Honda Hoarders on Facebook sometimes does custom fender orders, so you can do it that way also. Back to 87 upgrades. They upgrade the starter motor. The seat is still gray. The decals are different. I kind of dig the look of them. The start button, headlight button is just like the 86. Neutral below, reverse on top, just like 86, with the writing on the lens itself. The locking steering stop goes away for some reason. I don't know why they thought that was a bad idea. I don't know if there's a, yeah, the helmet holder now is on the headlight. That should be hanging down like that one over there. But the 85 has no helmet holder. Is that right? That's right. Okay. So sometimes you'll see a big red or a three-wheeler with these warnings on it, and that's because Honda mailed these out and told you to put these on your machines to make them safer. You know, gives you the false illusion of safety, kind of like wearing a mask. Excuse me. But these also have the guard on the header, like 86. This is the one that's got the engraving on the case cover and the front fender from the original owner, who I'm sure is since deceased. I think that's all the upgrades from 87. Oh, something I just thought of. In 87, you'll see it says owner's manual in here, because it has this little compartment for the owner's manual. Really hard to get it in and out of there, but that's where they tell you you can store it. 86 is the same way. Doesn't tell you it's in there, but it is. It's embossed here. Smooth. Embossed. Smooth. Smooth. Not embossed. It's got a warning there. So that's 85 only. These fenders, I don't know where this came from. Don't trust this machine for originality. But I would say 86 does get that embossing. It's embossed here. 85, no embossing. So 86 is double embossed. 87 is embossed. Extra sticker here to tell you your toolkit's in there with the tire pressure gauge. Your owner's manual's in here. It's embossed, but they also wanted to give you the exact same information on the sticker that goes right there. So that's 87. None of this is textured. This is 87, same decals. 87, same decals. Wait a minute. Not embossed. So we know what? What do we know? This fender was replaced with an 85. That's an 85 fender. How about that? Because it should be embossed with a secondary sticker, which may or may not still be on it, but at least you'd know. So how about that? Interesting. Interesting, interesting. So this is the one I've had for a while. We don't need to necessarily talk about differences, because these we know should be the same. These are the sheriff's bikes that I got just recently, a couple videos ago. Make sure to check those out, how we drag these home. And then there's this oddball, the 1988 Big Red. This is my worst condition Big Red, and this is the one that I spent the most money on. That's not true right now, because I think I've got more money in the 85 200 ES with everything I've done to it. But this is what I would say the third rarest Big Red. You might think, what do you mean third rarest? Why wouldn't it be the first? Well, I'll explain myself in a second. I have intentions and plans to restore this back to pristine condition. That'll take some work. I want to explain this notch in the fenders, but I gotta go get something, so give me a second to go get that and I'll be right back. And we're back. Through the magic of YouTube editing, I can now show you this. This is a heel guard, the heel guard that came on this when I got it from England. And I didn't know if it was homemade or what it was, but a couple people confirmed to me that no, this was a Honda line option that was installed at the dealer if you got an 88 Big Red. And so mine happened to have it. A gentleman reached out to me named Jacob that asked if I would be willing to provide my heel guard to him and a friend who who do reproductions. It's the same gentleman that does stainless steel reproductions for 250SX and 250ES mufflers on these, which I was able to obtain one from him through the process. But I sent this to him. He's got copies made up. I will put his contact info below so you can reach out to him if you want to get one of these. I think he's selling them only through eBay, so that should be his eBay info. But they're pretty cool looking. They go behind the foot pegs, but these things held a bracket that kind of caught the edge of your fender. So I have suspicions that that bracket was in place and then something happened, you know, some trauma to that fender, and it just broke it off. So you can see where there's wear down here on that one. So his reproductions are not going to have that bracket because it probably does more harm than good. But I got the seat from my buddy Travis up in Canada, and you'll notice it's lighter gray than the original 86 and 87s. This is the original seat off this machine, and it is a lighter gray. I don't know that that might be too light. You can kind of see the line right through here where, like, this is discolored and this is discolored. It is similar. It is supposed to be a lighter gray, but that might be just a touch too light. I don't know. But the warning on the back is different. So it doesn't have the Honda on the back. It has a warning to keep us safe, because warnings and things keep us safe, right? So this is cool because it is embossed, does have the warning. It's as accurate as you're going to get, unless you maybe get a little bit darker color. But this has the reflectors on it. It's missing one right there. You can still get the reflectors. These were an option. Oh, you didn't see it. These were an option that would bolt on to give you more protection from mud. You see this thing has been well used. I took this to Trike Fest last year, 2021. Nobody even realized it was anything special because I was camping out with PJ Hart, who has the ghetto pony there, so no one even batted an eye. I am assuming it should have, you know, the Chevron tires on it. The frame everything needs to come off the frame. The frame needs to get powdered or painted. But to my knowledge, it's very much like the 86, 87. I don't see any additional rack mounting points. I don't know what this switch did. This was probably for turbo. Doesn't do anything now, at least. I haven't chased those wires out. Put a box on it that I got. I like putting boxes on my big reds. Shares the same starting gear setup as the 86, or I'm sorry, as the 87, pardon me. But this needs a lot of love, needs to be completely gone through. And I have plans to do that. And let me tip my hand. So I talked to you. Oh, MRC Builds is sending me a message. We talk a little bit. But I mentioned about the Big Blue needs some love. The 88 needs love. And in here, I'm hiding one last Big Red. This really nice 86 is going to be a donor for my 88. So the plastics and cosmetic things like the switch, the dash, all that stuff, the speedo, all that's going to be put on my 88. Anything that cosmetically makes that 88 better is coming off this. The chassis and the clean motor and all that, that's going to go on my Big Blue. So basically, drivetrain, frame, all of that, we're gonna clothe this in blue. I'll have to swap out the front forks or front triple, and then the chassis of the Big Blue out there will get, I don't know if I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna put the 88 fenders on the Big Blue and sell it, because I'd want to hang on to the original fenders just because. So I don't know if I'll find some Meyer fenders to put on the Big Blue chassis. But that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to have 3 of these in my shop, and it's going to be a swapping frenzy. That's how I earned my nickname from Donnie Bizall, Admiral Swappington. I'm not parting them out. I'm just making the nicest possible specimens I can for my collection. And that's the story. But speaking of stories, you want to hear how I got these? Okay, I'll tell you. Well, come right over here. This 82, I had a hard time finding a decent 82. I'd asked a couple people that I knew who had them to sell them to me, and then nobody would. But then I heard about this one through my friend Craig Deloria, who lives up in Champlain, New York. He told me about a guy he knew that had this one for sale, and put me in contact with him, and I was able to buy it. And I've pretty much done nothing to it except a rear tire swap. These are better than what was on it. Oh, and I put decals on the back. Got some decals from Bruce Allman, because the fenders did not have decals on them, so that was kind of weird. That rack has been painted, and there was some evidence of overspray on the fenders. I don't like how it looks. I've got a powder coated rack that I'll probably put on this, and put that on a 200M or something, I think. So that one came more than a few years ago. I've had that. This 83, everybody loves this story. I got this one for the very high price of $0. It had, I think they were original rear tires on the back that were dry rotted and unable to hold air. They'd hold air long enough to pretty much roll it on the truck. Got this from a guy down in the Catskills. His name is Ed. I call this thing Big Ed. Came with the basket on it. I put the headlight guard on it. I had to put a new battery in it. I had to clean the carburetor. He said it had an electrical issue. I've never had an electrical issue with this. It starts right up. It's one of my best running machines. And it's done that. I've never had a trickle charger on it, and it just starts and runs. It's a great machine. This 84 I got from my pal Chad Bennett, as I mentioned earlier. Detoured on the way home from a Trike Fest, my first Trike Fest, and we grabbed this in a 7370. And like I said, I had the wrong tank on it. Neither Chad or I knew that. These are the tires that came on it. The front was tubed. That one is not. I had to tube this other rear because it started to leak on me. But you'll see these have some dry rot going on, so who knows how long they have, but that's where this one came from. This one was not free. I forget what I paid for it. It was reasonable, especially when it happened. Everything's so crazy expensive now. This one is my most recent Big Red. No, it's not either. I can't even say that. This was bought this year. Watch the videos. I tell the whole story. It came from England. Matt, the gentleman who I bought the 88 from, helped me find this, helped me get this. I'm very thankful to Matt, and I will sing his praises all day long. I went through a restoration on it, and I have a ton of money tied up in this. When you factor in the new old stock stuff I put on it, the speedo, the powder coat, the shipping fees, and all the things. This 85 is a boomerang bike, as I like to call them. It was owned by myself. I sold it. It came back. That makes it a boomerang bike. Bought this in New Jersey. A couple years ago. It was very, very nice then, but it had a crack in the rear fender, kind of right in this area. I traded it to my pal Pat Farnham. I've told the story in a recent video, for a 86 125M that I still have. Very nice machine. He ended up fixing everything that was wrong, which was mainly the fender. It's got a different tank on it. The tank that was on it was lined, but it was visually perfect. This tank is not lined, nice on the inside, but it's got this chatter from somebody who put a keychain on it. So that's unfortunate, but I don't know. I don't want to mess with it. But super duper clean, super clean chassis. Just so nice. It's not like it's this, the plastic on the levers, you know, isn't just like not nicked up. It's still like gold and shiny. So this is Big Bubba. I don't know if I've told the story on this, but my Uncle Dean bought this new back in '85. It lived a hard life up to camp. Where my cousin lives now was a camp just back then. And this was like the machine that anybody that came up to camp as a visitor, you know, rode the Big Red, and, you know, it just had a hard life. And when I first started going three-wheeler crazy back in 2017, I was at a 4th of July party with my cousin, and I asked him what he was doing with his Big Red, and he goes, "Oh, it's up in my rental, it's in the garage up there." I said, "You should get it going." He said, "You should get it going." So I said, "Well, yeah, okay." So within a month, he and I were over there. We had a heart-to-heart, and he said, "Take it and get it going, and that's payment enough." So it had dry rotted tires all the way around. It had no rear fenders. The front rack was worse than the one that's on it. It had a big V in there because I remember my buddy Pat hammered it into a tree at one point. But I put new filters, new battery, new oil, cleaned it up, and she starts hard, and the battery no longer holds a charge for some unknown reason, but and she's got a little bit of a timing chain noise going on, but she'll run, and you can sink it right in the mud hole. This 86 I bought on a Super Bowl Sunday a few years ago, and bought it with 3 other machines: an 85 that was really clean, 85 TRX 250, and an 84 200X. This is the only one of the 4 that I still own, and it was the cleanest of the bunch. It did not have the box on it, but it did have the headlight guard. This Big Blue was red when I bought it. It was really rough. I wanted it because it had the stump guards on it. I put the Speedo on it. I put the rims and tires on it. I told you about some of the other things I did to it. But now I'm going to go through it and change it up so that chassis will be different. This 87 came out of the Catskills. Bought it from the second owner, who was an old man, and this was a couple years ago. I wonder if he's still with us or not. But he got it from the original owner, who's the one who engraved his social on the cases and everything. It did not have the box on it. Didn't have the headlight guard on it. I put those on. But it was just a very nice machine to be able to get. Went down on an adventure. That was a big day. That was I traded, what did I do? I traded a CRF 230 in cash for a 350X that was all blacked out, that had a 500 kit put on it. But then I later sold that, and then I went and bought this. I bought a 70 that same day. So I left with, I think, 2 machines. I came home with 3. It was a big adventure. These are the sheriff spikes that I just obtained, so watch the video on that if you haven't seen that. I'm going to be selling one soon. A local buddy of mine has got first refusal on it, so I'll keep you posted on what he says. But don't reach out to me asking if they're for sale, because there's a long line, and I'll probably have it sold before I get through that line of people. And the 88, I've done a video on this to tell the story. This was bought through eBay, but the seller and I are now friends, and we chat pretty frequently. Cool guy named Matt Jones from England. And that, my friends, is the story of the Big Reds. Before I end, I'll go back down here to where the 84 is, and I'll make mention again of that 84 200E Big Red. I've only seen a couple of them. One was in Finland, one was in Sweden, one was in Chile, and that is what I would say is the rarest one. So what would go right here, or maybe right there. This, I would say, is the second rarest Big Red, 85 200 ES. When most people don't even know they exist, you know they're pretty rare. And hardly anybody knows that 84 200E exists, except you guys know now, because you're avid watchers of my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. Help my channel grow. Thank you. I would argue the 84 200E could be the rarest Honda three-wheeler. Rarer than a Christmas special, rarer than a 87 anything. 87 125Ms are pretty rare. I would say that's probably the rarest machine. I'm going to do a video on just rare Honda three-wheelers. And of course the rarest won't be in the video, but we'll talk about it. So that concludes the rarest Big Reds video. One thing I wanted to touch on is I talked about how the 85 200 ES is likely the most rare of what I have. The 84 200E I think is the rarest. The 88 would be the third rarest. And of these other, you know, run-of-the-mill common Big Reds, you know, with most Hondas, the way it goes is the last model year is the lowest production number. So the 87s would be more rare than the 86s. The 86s would be fewer in production than the 85s. The 84, if we go by the list, the infamous list, the 84 Big Red 200 ES is the most mass-produced three-wheeler ever. Certainly for what Honda made, and Honda made more than anybody else because they were the best. We all know that. So this is the most common. So in this scenario, it switches where these, I don't know which would be more rare. I feel like you see less 82s than anything. It's like they were dipping their toe in the pool, and then when it came to 83, they're like, yeah, people like these. And then they came to 84, they're like, oh boy, let's make a bunch of these. So that's what they did. And my theory is that, you know, they still had some chain drive platforms that they didn't want to waste. Word on the street is that Mr. Honda didn't want to waste anything, so he made some 84 200Es, probably with leftover parts, and that is a similar explanation as to why this thing exists, because they went to the 250 ES in most areas, but they still had some 84 shaft drive platforms laying around, and they made a bunch of these. So that's my conclusion on what's the most rare. What numbers are exactly, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. The list leaves out a bunch of common three-wheelers, which makes me question its validity. And the last thing I'd like to clarify before I close this out is the difference in Big Reds versus Super Reds. Like, this is an 88, and it confuses people because it's a Big Red, because most people think that the 88 250 ES is a Super Red, and that would be the case in Australia and New Zealand, but in other areas they were Big Reds. And it's not just 88s. If you bought a 1985 250 ES in Australia, it was a Super Red. If you bought an 86, it was a Super Red. If you bought an 84 or an 85 200 ES, you'd have a super red. They had a copyright issue that they were getting around with the term Big Red, which was reserved for Heinz made a tomato soup, and it was named Big Red. So that is why the difference in those markets, why it was branded Super Red versus Big Red, and hopefully that makes sense. And you might ask, you might say, oh, you need the 84 200E, but don't you need a Super Red of each one too? Well, you could look at it that way, but I'm going to shut the insanity off at just the model numbers. You know, I'm not going to get hung up on, you know, the decals that are different. One thing I will say this, the 88 Super Reds from Australia, our good friend Binky Tapscott has two beautiful 88 Big Reds, and I've seen them in person. They are the complete opposite of this. They are low hour, you know, barely any use on them, if any. And I did notice they have horns installed from the factory. I can't remember where on the handlebars they operated from, but it was a push button horn. So, well, that being said, now I'm going to close this thing out. So that's all I got for you today. It is so hot. I'm going to wrap this up. Try to get this out to you tonight. It's Sunday, so if you're watching this on Sunday, the what is it, 24th? You know I filmed this today. But thanks for watching. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for taking this journey with me, experiencing my insanity with all the Big Reds. Now the fun becomes getting these put back away. It took 2 hours to set these up today, not including the hour I've spent talking to you. So just so you know what goes into it, and that means probably at least an hour of editing, just so you can look at these three-wheelers and tell me how they were supposed to be put in mud holes and all that. You know what? When you own a three-wheeler, whether it's a Honda or a Tiger or a Frank's or whatever it is, you can sink it in a mud hole, but don't tell other people how to drive their Hondas or push them or whatever. But thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic day, and from my garage to your garage, we'll catch you next time.